Good, Brian. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning meeting for Saturday, October 18th, 2025. We have all members here. I'd also like to welcome Bob Brush, filling in or taking over for Patrick Shepley, who is our liaison for the town council. So welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
I think we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Our next item is approval of the agenda.
Move the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item is discussion approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes from November 16th, 2024. It's been quite a bit of time since we've been together, so any questions, comments, edits?
Taking on faith that they're correct, I move the minutes of November 16, 2024.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next item, announcements, comments, updates. Non-residential design review committee, Susan, the last 11 months? No, I'm kidding.
No, we haven't had one recently.
Okay, good. Just also on that note, I'd like to mention that Kathy Shorter will be continuing to support from Planning and Zoning on that committee for the next year. That was announced yesterday at the town council meeting. Item 2, comments, updates regarding the October-November town council meeting. Bob?
So thank you. I'll hit September and October.
Sure.
So in September, on the 22nd, we held a reorganizational meeting following the election. Incumbents Jerry Morris, Teresa Keel, as well as a new member, Mark Tanowitz, took the oaths of office. There was also nominations and selections for the offices of Mayor, Vice Mayor, Secretary, Treasury. Council voted unanimously for all the incumbents. Mr. Califf for Mayor, Mr. Morris for Vice Mayor, Mrs. Keel for Secretary, Treasurer. Other administrative items around setting meeting dates, committee chair appointments, et cetera, were taken in that meeting as well. Items of business that followed, we approved the Loop Canal timber retaining wall bid. It'll be done by Murdoch Marine Division. We also approved the contract for Half Moon Boulevard improvements. That's the Adel construction. And we also passed a resolution authorizing the submission of a recreation parks and trails grant request. That grant is in relation to the playground across the street there. Yesterday at our session, started off with the great occasion of the promotion of Sergeant Josh Fulton, as well as Patrolman First Class Graydon Meredith. Chief Foley also took us through a fantastic initiative for the department around Movember, which I thought was great to benefit Justin's Beach House. In terms of items of business, we passed a resolution honoring Senator Hocker and Mrs. Hocker as the 2025 Sussex County Distinguished Citizens. We approved the appointments to various committees, including this one, so congratulations to all of us. Board of Adjustments and the other committees. As far as business, we approved the proposal for the Atlantic and Pennsylvania Avenue street concepts, Rummel, Klepper, and Call for that. And we approved the construction oversight services for the Loop Canal for McCormick and Taylor. The town manager's report, probably the point of focus on that, first of all, was the fantastic response of the town as usual with respect to the storm. Town always goes above and beyond. And we also talked a little bit about the extent of the damage that we saw and what that could mean going forward. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's my report.
Thank you. John?
Bob, a new protocol manual was approved, is that correct?
Yes, I did. Yes, correct.
I don't know if that's something we should probably review for ourselves and in how we conduct our business, but I haven't had a chance to do any of that.
I think, I don't think there's any reason why you can't. I think it's probably published as well, right? The protocol's on site.
It mostly relates to the town council and everything, but it would be good for you to review, because then you can hold them accountable.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, any comments, questions, discussion for planning commission members? John?
Well, it's nice to be back together and see everybody. We've got this application this month. I think we have 2 partitions now on the record for November, and I'm not sure what will come after that, but I know I have had, and as have others, some discussions with Susan about if there are some tweaks to our existing zoning requirements, that we start teeing them up probably in the new year. I recall that, as an example, Mr. Chairman, we've had discussions about trees.
Yes.
And we never really came to a final conclusion on that, and that's something that going forward we will probably revisit. And honestly, I only say that because one of the partitions that we have in November is from a developer called Evergreen, I believe. And I have a particular problem with Evergreen because in prior ones, they cut down a lot of trees. And it was an oxymoron to me that they were evergreen when they were, but that's an aside. Anyway, I think there are some, areas like that that we might have subject to the town council giving us the blessing to go forward that we should be looking at.
Yes. Thank you. The mayor did also receive some comments from Susan for areas that we can work on. So we'll be coordinating that with Susan for us to start working and helping in certain areas in the new year. So that's a great comment, and will give us some additional items to meet and work on, so we don't have big gaps in our meeting schedule. Anyone else? No? The comprehensive plan? No, I'm just kidding. We have another year and a half or so, I think, before we start thinking about that again. All right, moving on, public comments, questions for the Planning Commission? Any? No? New business? We have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of before we get into the official business. We have to choose our next chairperson, vice chairperson for this calendar year, 2025-2026. So, John.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Under new business A, I'm going to nominate you to return as chairman. So I move Mark as...
I second that, since he's done a wonderful job with all the meetings we've had this year.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for chairperson? They're not. I move the question of Mark for continuing as the chair.
I second that.
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you all. Okay. Nomination for vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate John Gahn to continue as our vice chair. of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I second that.
John, I'd like to add that you'll continue with your secretary
As
duties
secretary,
as well.
yes.
Thank you. All in favor of John? Any others? Sorry, no? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John. That was easy. Okay, official business B, the Planning Commission of the Town of Bethany will consider the application for preliminary plan review filed by Ray Blakeney, Plitco Engineering for C&J Cole LLC, property identified as Lot 4, Block 33, address 867 Garfield Parkway. Susan?
Okay, this is a request for preliminary plan review for a planned residential development. It's Cole Property, C&J Cole LLC, 867 Garfield Parkway, Block 33, Lot 4, tax map and parcel 134-13-102. This request, the following was submitted by Ray Blakely for the property owner C&J Cole LLC. They submitted 7 sets of preliminary plans that included a preliminary street and lot plan, a preliminary street profile, a preliminary grading and drainage plan, preliminary utility and street light plan, and proposed building elevations. They submitted a completed application. The application fee in the amount of $1,250. The application fee is based on it's $500 plus $250 per unit. And a notarized list of property owners, names and addresses within 200 feet of the property. Pursuant to Section 410-38, General Standards, the proposed PRD conforms to the design standards except for the following. The applicant submitted architectural elevations of the front and rear of the duplex, not an artist rendering / computer-generated illustration of the exterior as required. The landscape plans and landscape requirements were not submitted for preliminary review. The proposed site data states that the new duplexes will each have 4 parking spaces under the structure. There is no parking shown on the road. Based on each parking space is required to be minimally 8 by 18, and the length of the area under the structure is 55 feet. There is only room for 3 parking spaces. The number of parking spaces required will be based on the number of bedrooms, which right now is unknown. Street lights were not submitted but may not need to be included in the PRD request. The Planning and Zoning Commission may also want to consider, although the general considerations require the structures to have a mix of styles, sizes, facades, roof pitches, and color, not specified, whether the style of the proposed duplex is aesthetically compatible with the style of the existing dwelling. Pursuant to Section 410-23, preliminary plans, the drawings contain all of the required information except for the minor omissions. On 410-23C2, see, new contours don't show the elevation. No spot elevations were provided. Number 2, 410-23C3, detailed drawings of connections to the town water distribution line, the depth of all water lines, the dimensions and location of all easements for existing or proposed sewer lines. The plans do note the sewer provider as Town of Bethany Beach when the provider is actually Sussex County. And 410-23C4, the plan labeled preliminary electric and street light plan is the same as the preliminary water and sewer plan, with a note stating the electric service for proposed units to be underground and coordinated with electric service provider. Other than that, the property is zoned R2 residential and consists of approximately 42,535 square feet and has 103.2 linear feet of frontage on Garfield Parkway. The property owner was granted a variance for the requirement for a minimum lot area for a planned residential development. The lot has 103.2 linear feet of frontage on Garfield Parkway and an existing entrance that they intend to use. There are 3 existing sanitary sewer lines that have easements and run diagonally across the lot. The lot also has federally regulated non-tidal wetlands at the rear portion and 404 wetlands at the east side, that would require a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers before dredging or fill material may be discharged. The property is in the flood zone AE with a base flood elevation of 6 feet. The current owner purchased the property in September 2012 and moved a single-family home onto the property in November of 2012. Appendix 3, Table of Dimensional Requirements, states that single dwelling units in an R2 district require 7,000 square feet per lot and 60 feet minimum street frontage. The required setbacks are 20 feet minimum front yard, 7 feet minimum side yards for the single family, 14 feet minimum side yards for the duplex, and 15 minimum for the rear yard. The existing dwelling is well within the setbacks. The proposed duplex side yard setbacks exceed 23 feet each side, and it is located more than 70 feet from the rear property line. Section 410-16, Street Access Requirements, states that no building shall be constructed on any lot which does not have the required minimum frontage on a public street. The total frontage on Garfield is 103.2 linear feet, sufficient frontage for one unit only. The private way may be used to provide the required street frontage for each unit to meet the requirement. The proposed private way is a paved access road, 22 feet wide. The proposed private way uses the existing access from Route 26, Garfield Parkway, and is approximately 4 feet from the elevated screened porch of the existing single-family dwelling. It turns and terminates across the entire front of the duplex. An emergency vehicle turnaround is included in the design. Section 425-84, Planned Residential Development, states that the net density shall be computed after subtracting land allocated to street rights-of-way and all federal and/or state designated wetlands, except where filling is permitted. The plan notes a rough estimate of the total area of the paved private way is 7,452 square feet. Deducting both the wetland and private way from the total site area equals 24,856 square feet. In the R2 district, a minimum of 7,000 square feet is required for each unit. A maximum of 3 units is permitted. Section 410-6, Definitions and Word Usage, has definitions for public street, minor street, and private way. A minor street is a street designed primarily to provide access to residential property. A private way is defined as any land other than alley intended for vehicular passage which is not required to be dedicated as a public street, may serve as primary access for dwelling units. Based on the definitions and past PRD proposals, a private way may be considered as a minor street. Section 410-29, Minor Subdivision and Planned Residential Developments, A, states that private ways and parking lots shall be paved with 4 courses of bituminous surface treatment over 6 inches of select borrow. The private way cross-section shows it to be 1 1/4 type C hot mix wearing course over 1 3/4 type C hot mix base course over 6 inches of aggregate subbase compacted gravel. Section 410-39, Streets, B, states that the surface of the street shall be improved in compliance with town street specifications, and the paved width shall be no less than 22 feet on a minor street. The private way meets these conditions. Section 410-39, Streets, G, addresses cul-de-sacs and dead-end streets. Dead-end streets are only appropriate when the surrounding properties will never need a street connection or because of extremely sensitive and permanently protected natural sources, or where the project provides a viable alternative pedestrian and bicycle connection to the surrounding properties. Dead-end streets are to terminate in either a cul-de-sac or a turnaround as defined by code. The proposed private way terminates in an emergency vehicle turnaround. Copies of the code sections referenced were attached. Large-scale plans were available, and I have some here if you need them. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Just so that we're all on the same page, can you explain to all of us what our authority is here today? What we're supposed to do?
Is to review, what I understand is you're to review the plans for completeness, for correctness, to make sure that it meets basically the basic information necessary for the code. You can look at whether the drainage works, whether the elevations are sufficient or you need more information on that, whether the layout of the private way is sufficient for using it as a private way, a single road with emergency vehicle access, or any other questions that you think are necessary. You might ask about whether a trash truck will have to go down the private way, or how are they, whether they will need more parking, whether the private way is too close to the existing house. Any kind of question that you have about the plans, you can ask now and try to get this tied down into, so they can go forward with a final plan that meets all the requirements.
So this is preliminary, and we're sending them back for final with our comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, or you can tell them that this is, you approve it with comments, or if there's something major that's, I don't know what that would be, but
Right.
if there's something major, you can ask them to come back again for a second review of the preliminary with comments and changes.
Okay.
Either way.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Susan, when I reviewed this, going from your memorandum, there are elements that should have been included that were not there.
Yes, some.
Yeah, I mean, from your memo, numbers 1 and 2, the landscape plan and the architectural elevations, I have circled as no.
I mention them because that's the way that they are referenced in the code. As far as the elevations, I don't know whether the ones provided are sufficient enough or or you need more of a rendering. That's the purpose of that comment. The landscape plan, yes, they can talk about that. Maybe they're not intending to do anything. I don't know, but there's nothing in here that indicates what the plan is for the property.
Mr. Chairman, I am reminded of cases. I happen to have a law degree. Don't ever come to me for representation, but there have been cases that have that were proposed to go before the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court said we're not ready to hear this case because it's not ripe. And as I reviewed this, that notion surfaced for me because I am concerned that the current application does not meet all the requirements, just from a procedural standpoint, for us to make a decision of where it goes and so forth. And I put that on the record because I'm going to be asking questions along that line. But I am concerned that it does not meet all the current requirements for a procedural review.
I agree with that.
I agree too, John.
Can I just ask a question? So is new guy question from the standpoint of recognizing there's minor differences for this discussion, is it meant to draw out the material issues to go back, and then the expectation is for the final review that all requirements will be met? Is that one way to think about it? I'm just,
Yeah, you can either require this to come back for with the necessary information if you feel like you cannot make a decision. If you can, if it looks like you can make a decision and they have to come back then with the additional information in the final. The final is a whole other review, so you can look at it then or require it for this particular hearing.
Right.
If
We could
it's
have a
minor.
resubmission of the preliminary with the missing information, or we can
Make it a condition.
make it, incorporate
Conditional.
it into, as a condition into the final.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as Secretary of the Commission, I think we would benefit from hearing from both the applicant. I don't know if there are adjacent property owners or others that want to comment. We have at least one letter of comment from an adjacent property owner, Mrs. Onifrey, who, because of her religious convictions, does not or cannot participate on a Saturday event, but she has submitted a letter, and I would propose that at some point I will read that letter into the record, but we should hear from everybody and then proceed from there.
Yeah, I agree. Are there representatives here from the applicant? Yes. And are there any other neighbors or anyone else that wants to offer comments into the record? Doesn't appear. So just the applicant. Do we want to read Mrs. I'm sorry, yes?
Oh, sorry. Oh, you have to use the microphone over there.
Yep.
And please state your name and address.
My name is Bill Ziegler. I'm at 849 Glen Court in Bethany Beach. And Glen Court is part of Glen Drive, and my particular house is behind this lot and across the street. It really doesn't impact me, but I'm questioning the density of this lot where you have a house and then 2 townhomes. And did they do that because they couldn't fit 3 houses on, or that's just what they wanted to do? And if that's what they wanted to do, can they add a 4th house in the future so it becomes more dense? And so that's the concern, is the density. And because of that, there are 4 lots that are all the same length and width, which is very narrow and long. And I'm wondering if that's been considered, that if you have heavy density on this lot and you do that 3 more times, you could have up to 18 homes or something like that in this block. And that would all enter onto 26. So my current concerns are basically what the current density will be, and speculating, which maybe we can't do, about what the future density would be with the other homeowners that on the empty lots. And that one of them's, at least one other, is not empty, it's got a house on it also.
Do you want to explain the density calculations, or you want me to? I know you gave a summary in your
For this
overview.
particular lot, they were granted a variance, so any other property would have to prove practical difficulty, hardship, whatever, because I don't believe, there might be one that is still under the ownership from before this PRD code was enforced, but the others would have to do the same thing that these guys did. This particular lot can have no more than 3 units total because of the shape, the size, and subtracting the wetlands and everything. That's what it equals out to. So this is limited to 3. Other lots, I don't know what they have wetlands. I don't know what their conditions are, so I couldn't tell you. I don't think any of them are in single ownership since the code was enacted, so they would all have to go through the same process, and all would be subject to Board of Adjustment review.
Yep, Bill, just to clarify, so every house has to have a minimum of X square footage, right?
Not hearing you well, and
Uh,
I'm confused.
so-
The real question is, saying this is approved exactly the way it is, could that be done 3 more times on the empty lots?
It depends,
That would give you
based,
your total
based on those lot conditions. They might have different varying circumstances on those. So this lot in particular has some wetlands in the back and some other easements across the front and other items that are, being factored into the overall lot size and being calculated into how many overall units can be included on that lot. And so in this case, there's one existing house on that lot, and there's only enough room to add 2 more. On an adjacent lot that might not have any wetlands or any utilities going across it, it might be that that lot can afford or can allow, 4 homes because there is more usable space. So we can't say for sure that the density on the adjacent lots is, higher or lower. But in this particular case, the way that, the code is written and what is included and what not in those calculations, the maximum that can be included are 3 dwelling units. And so that's how that's
Remember, in general, all of them are too small for a PRD. All of them are less than 50,000 square feet. So it's not guaranteed that they could build any more than one on. They would have to go to the Board of Adjustment and prove hardship or practical difficulty. So at this point, they're all undersized to go forward without Board of Adjustment approval.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I see on the plans, as I'm going to call it a statement from the Army Corps of Engineers. Is that all that is a statement that non-tidal wetlands are present there? They haven't approved it yet, or do they have to approve it at some point?
That's a good question. I think they'll have to make application to them for any construction and get their approval. That's
So this
my
was just a
understanding.
statement saying they
That
exist?
They're there, yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would suggest that we hold other questions and allow the applicant to make a presentation. I'll then read Mrs. Onafree's letter and take other input if there is any, and then we can proceed with the questions so that we stay focused, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Ray?
Apologize, someone absconded with my easel that I usually bring, so I'm just going to use a chair here. Just for some general pointing. I like to talk with my hands. Good morning. My name is Ray Blakeney. As stated, I'm with Plitco Engineering, and our office is located at 53 Atlantic Avenue in Ocean View. And we're here presenting the preliminary plan for a proposed planned residential development, as Susan said. The site's located at 867 Garfield Parkway in the R2 zoning district. Before I go any further, I also want to mention that Charlie and George Cole are here as well, representing the owners. The site, as I said, was located, oh, you're the best, thank you. She is. Located at 867 Garfield Parkway in the R2 zoning district. The site's comprised of 42,535 feet plus or minus square feet total, of which there are 11,227 square feet of non-tidal wetlands. The remaining 31,308 square feet are uplands. There are, as Susan mentioned, there are 2 existing sewer easements on the property, one running across the front and up the west side, and then another one cutting diagonally across the site before turning to the west. That explains why the existing house is set back so far, so as to be outside of those easements. The existing house is served by a gravel drive and curb cut on Garfield Parkway, and then there's an existing parking area beside the house, also gravel. The owner's proposing a duplex at the rear of the property. The building will be approximately 57 feet in width by 56 feet in depth. And we are proposing this as a PRD. Looking at the site, we initially looked at trying to do a fee simple subdivision, but within the town codes and the R2 zoning district, we really couldn't make those lots work, which is why we went with what we perceived as the more flexible option of the planned residential development. As Susan mentioned, the project received a variance from the Board of Adjustment on April 18th, 2024, for the requirement of the 50,000 square foot lot minimum for a PRD. Given, again, the unusual shape of the lot being long and narrow, as well as the existing sewer easement and wetlands, the Board of Adjustment felt that that was justified. That would bring the total proposed unit count on the site to 3. As Susan mentioned, we did a lot calculation, or an area calculation as well. We did not include the right-of-way for the private way because my understanding is that the private way does not have any dedicated right-of-way. So we did subtract the wetland area and basically just use the upland area for our calculation. So 31,308 square feet of uplands divided by the 3 units gives you 10,436 square feet per unit, which is well in excess of the 7,000 square feet per unit that's required by R2. The proposed building can accommodate the required yards that are required for a PRD, the 20-foot in front, 15-foot rear, and the 14-foot sides for a 2-unit duplex. Will also meet the building height restriction of 31 feet in the R2 district. The units themselves will not encroach on the wetland area. Most of the existing vegetation that exists in the property will be preserved with the exception of the area within the stormwater management feature here, and I'll describe that in a little more detail in a minute. Our total impervious lot coverage, including existing and proposed, is approximately 12,745 square feet, or 29.9% of the lot, which is below the maximum lot coverage of 40% in the R2 district. Water service provided by the town of Bethany Beach. Sewer service, as Susan mentioned, is by the Sussex County. It is mislabeled on the plan, and we will correct that for our final. That was an oversight on my part. The proposed access is a private way, not required to be dedicated to the town. It will be privately maintained by the homeowners, no right-of-way dedication. The private way will be paved and widened to 22 feet per town standards, which will allow 2 cars to pass each other. The existing curb cut at Garfield Parkway will likely need to be widened as well, and that will all be done in coordination with DelDOT as we prepare a plan and submit it to them for review and approval. Given the constraints of the site, there wasn't really room for a typical cul-de-sac at the rear of the property, which is why we went with the emergency vehicle turnaround in lieu of that. This will obviously need to be coordinated with the Office of the State Fire Marshal as part of our site plan review with their office. It's likely that they're going to want that turnaround stripe and some parking or some signage indicating that no parking is to be allowed in that emergency vehicle turnaround. And we'll certainly comply with any regulations or requirements that they have. All right, so this is a profile of the proposed street. The street is going to have a slate crown with a 1.5% cross slope to allow positive drainage. And we are intending to basically match the existing grade on the site as much as possible. We're not proposing any mass grading on the site. We want to disturb as little as possible during construction for this. We've got again, the cross-section shows the pavement section that Susan mentioned, and this is just a detail of that emergency vehicle turnaround dimensions. Again, this is from the Office of the State Fire Marshal and their requirements for emergency vehicle turnarounds. The existing topography on the site falls from the front of the lot to the rear. No mass grading, as I mentioned, is proposed for the private drive or the proposed units. The site is going to be minimally graded as needed to provide for positive drainage. The front of the site is going to drain as it currently does. We are installing yard inlets at the rear of the site to capture the runoff from this larger paved area, as well as to collect the downspout runoff from the roof drainage. And that runoff would then be piped to this rear submerged gravel wetland stormwater facility that would be proposed and built here. That runoff will then be treated for quality and then released into this existing ditch at the rear of the property at a rate that is at or below what is currently existing, and that's required by stormwater management regulations. The stormwater management plan would have to be reviewed and approved by Sussex Conservation District, and the disturbance that we're proposing in the wetland area for this stormwater management, again, would have to be approved, reviewed and approved by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers under a nationwide 18 permit. We have actually applied for that permit at this point. The proposed units, let me go. Utilities. The proposed units are going to be served by 6-inch sewer laterals that will tie into the existing manhole here on the site as part of that sewer easement that runs through the property. The proposed sewer connections will have to obviously be reviewed and approved by Sussex County Engineering. Water service is from an existing 8-inch main that runs along Garfield Parkway. We're proposing to run service lines alongside the driveway back to this point, and then at that point split off and provide service to each of the proposed units. No street lights are proposed for the development. Any exterior lighting for the new units will all be building mounted and angled to minimize glare onto the neighboring properties. Obviously, our sewer plan, our sewer connection will have to be reviewed by Sussex County Engineering, and the water plan coordinated with the town's water department. Electric service, as Susan mentioned, for the proposed units will be underground and coordinated with the electric service provider. The proposed units, as shown, will be constructed on pilings. The pilings are arranged to allow parking beneath the units for 3 to 4 cars for each unit, which satisfies the town's requirements for parking. Each one of these bays is approximately a little over 13 feet wide by 48 feet deep, meaning you could easily get 2 cars in there. Even if they were to enclose a portion of that for outdoor storage, for recreational equipment or whatnot, there'd still be room for 3 cars to be parked in there. That would help keep any cars out of that emergency vehicle turnaround area. The finish for the units is going to be a traditional style. There are porches in the front, there are balconies in the rear. This style was basically chosen to sort of mirror some of the existing styles in Rehoboth, or in Bethany Beach. And finally, this last sheet is not in your package, but I did want to give you some information on the interior of this building as proposed. The first floor living area is all common living area. There are no bedrooms on that first floor. There's a living and dining room at the front of the building, and then a kitchen and a large family room to the rear. There's a switchback staircase that leads up to the second floor with a short hallway. There are 2 bedrooms, 2 small bedrooms, and a shared bath off that hallway, and then a master suite with a larger bedroom, bathroom, private bath, and then a walk-in closet. I think it's important to note that these are not giant McMansion-type units designed for maximum Airbnb rentals of 16 people. They're small cottage-type units that fit well within the neighborhood character of Bethany Beach. And then the last thing I wanted to just mention real quickly was some of the items that Susan mentioned. We talked about the right-of-way for the private way, that there is no right-of-way, which is why we didn't include it as part of our density calculation. But even if we did include it, per Susan's calculations, we still meet the requirement for 3 units on the site. And the other thing has to do with the frontage of the unit. My understanding in a PRD, part of the flexibility that that offers is as long as you have frontage that would satisfy 1 unit in the PRD, you don't need specific frontage for every specific unit. That was our understanding. If I'm in error, we can discuss that with Susan and we can make changes as needed. Other than that, unless you guys have anything to add, we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ray. Go ahead.
Excuse me, I have a couple of questions. Sure. Did you say the private way would be dedicated to the town?
No.
Okay,
As part of the town regulations, private ways are not. It'd be maintained, constructed and maintained by the homeowners.
okay. And how many bedrooms? 4?
3 bedrooms per unit.
Total 3?
3 total.
How many parking? 2 parking, okay.
They're fine.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
Oh, and you've applied for the permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers? Okay.
Yes, we've submitted drawings to the wetland consultant that's going to be, I should say, we've submitted our drawings to him. I believe he's made the application at this point, but obviously that will have to be reviewed and approved before we come back to you with final.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
No. Bruce? Bruce? It's so everybody can hear you when it's recorded.
Bruce Fry, 505 Genway in Bethany Beach. You said the runoff is going to be purified somehow before, how do you purify it?
So the submerged gravel wetland is basically a gravel area that's underwater in the wetland area. The runoff comes in and displaces water out into the existing ditch. Like I said, at pre-existing or less rates. And then as that runoff travels through that gravel, all the sediments and everything are taken
Okay,
out.
so just like a swale, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bruce. Ray, can you speak a little bit to the size or the capacity of that stormwater management system?
Sure. So as I said, it's going to have to be reviewed and approved by Sussex Conservation District, but we've done preliminary calculations based on the amount of runoff that we're collecting, mostly from the rear of the site there. That's what those yard inlets are meant to collect. And then we've just done a calculation based on how big roughly we think that needs to be, and that's what's shown on the plan. We'll do more detailed calculations when we submit those plans to Sussex Conservation District, and we can supply those stormwater plans as well as their approval should this project move forward.
But the idea of it is that it'll retain to some extent
Yes.
in the
Yes.
in the sort of downpour, like
That's right.
over condition. So it's not
again, the runoff will be collected, and there's an outlet structure that basically regulates how fast the water can flow out of that structure. I think, yeah, that's the best. And then, like I said, as the water travels through, the sediments are taken out. The water is basically cleaned and then released based on the current stormwater regulations.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
One other thing I should mention real quick, we talked about landscaping. At this point, we aren't proposing any significant landscaping to the site. We're going to try to preserve what's there as much as possible, but we aren't anticipating any additional plantings. But that's certainly something that can be, discussed.
Do they still have to submit a plan that shows that?
Well, if it shows nothing, I don't know what they'd submit if they're not going to do
Well,
it.
then maybe just a statement.
A statement that it's grass or what the final, in the photos that I have here, it does look like it's mostly grass.
Right.
Are there any other comments from those in the audience? Yes, sir. Please go to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Barry Kingsbury. I live at 851 Glen Drive, Bethany Beach. So I do have some concerns with the runoff. You can't hear me? Okay. I do have some concerns with the runoff that you're proposing. There's a lot of hardscaping you're putting down under the house, additional parking. It's gravel, it's porous, you know, it's porous now, it can absorb water. That's not going to exist anymore if you're going to put the driveway in, the roof, all that. You're capturing some of the water. It's proposed to go to your stormwater storage and then drain to a ditch. That ditch isn't operating very well. In Bethany Glen, where I live, we're holding more and more water all the time because that ditch doesn't drain. And so we do have some environmental concerns, but also the impact it's going to have on the neighborhoods that are adjacent to you. So is your stormwater system that you're proposing, how did you figure out how large and how?
Again, you do calculations based on the amount of runoff that it's going to collect based on different storms. There's like basically an average rainfall for a 2-year storm and a 10-year storm.
Yeah. Is this all based on the hardscaping that you're adding? Yep. Okay. So I'm seriously, ask you to take a look at that and to address maybe what you're draining to, because that ditch has not been cleaned out. It does not operate the way it is now. You can go out there right now and
Sure, I understand.
you've seen it, and you got water laying back there now with you. So, and we've got water in our neighborhood now, and just not because of the big storm, but it's continuing. And that ditch runs from one to the canal from the bay here, and it hasn't been operating for some time. It's just continues to get worse. So that's a concern we have in our neighborhood, that you're going to push more water on us. We're a little bit lower than what you're getting ready to elevate, so that's going to put more water on us, and that's a deep concern for.
Well, I would note that we're not really planning on doing much fill other than for the road itself, for the drive, and really only at the center line, just to get positive drainage on that. And the other thing is that the gravel area that's there now is also considered impervious when you do the stormwater management regulations. So we're really not going to be increasing it as much as it seems like we are. It's not like we're paving it. We are increasing it. I'm not saying we're not, but we're also going to take responsibility for treating it. And again, those plans are going to be reviewed by the state.
In reality, I'm pretty sure that the driveway sucks down some water the way it is now.
I agree with you, but that's how it's regulated in the state. So.
So, and also with the plans being incomplete, not having enough square footage in the property, I asked the board to consider to somehow or another to reject that plan right now and let them come back with something else that might work for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not our property. I mean, there's no portion of it.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Name and.
George Cole. George Cole, property owner. Just to respond to the gentleman there with the ditch. The ditch is not the responsibility of the property owners. I think it's a city responsibility. And it's, who's
No, I believe that it's in the easement of your property and the one behind it. I don't believe it actually belongs to the town.
Okay,
I think the responsibility is the homeowners.
Homeowner. In our ordinances, the responsibility is the homeowner.
Okay. It's been that in it. When I purchased the property, it was like that. It hadn't changed much. So I guess the residents that all back up to it should address it?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, well then, that's something we could talk about in the future, but it has been a problem, no doubt. It's very low. Anyway, that was my only comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I actually have a question. Just help me understand, will the retention pond be connected to the ditch that's there now?
It would be connected via pipe. So the submerged gravel area will basically just look like a gravel patch on the ground. All the storage is actually below ground in that gravel, in the areas between the gravel. That's where, as the water flows through the gravel, that's what treats the sediments. The outfall structure regulates how fast it can discharge into that ditch. And again, it has to be at pre-existing rates or below in order to pass Sussex Conservation District regulations. So once it goes through that outfall structure, there's a short pipe that then outfalls into the ditch.
Yes, but I'm not very fond of
The submerged gravel area needs to be periodically cleaned out, yes. So that those sediments don't build up.
Does the ditch flow into the retention pond?
No,
It does not.
no.
So that's what I was concerned about, if there's flooding in the ditch.
Only, I mean, in a flood event, everything's gonna flood, but, I mean,
Right, right.
it's possible that, yes, at some point it could back up in a major flood event. But typically, no, it's not gonna, the ditch is not going to flow into the submerged gravel area.
Any other comments?
Being no further comments from the public in attendance, I have a letter that I'm going to read. And for the record, I share the backstory to this. The letter is from Joe Carroll, honor free, an owner of a property adjacent. Prior to this hearing, one of her siblings called me because her mom, as a Seventh-day Adventist, wasn't going to be able to attend this meeting. And she was asking my advice on how to proceed. And I directed her to Susan and to the town manager because I said, it's not my place to tell you what to do, and I'm going to put this on the record because if there's contention to this, I don't want someone to feel that there was an ex parte communication. And obviously, she must have communicated with somebody in the town because she has submitted this written letter, and she asked that it be read publicly. So I will do that at her direction. To the Planning and Zoning Commission, my name is Joe Carroll, honor free. I own the lot at 857A in Bethany Beach. I'm 84 years old. This letter is being written in an effort to express my concerns regarding the property directly adjacent to my property, which is being considered for a PRD. Currently, I'm in the process of selling my primary residence, and it is under contract. It is my intention to use these proceeds to build my new home in Bethany. Since I'm a Sabbath keeper and do not conduct business on the day this meeting is being held, I will not be attending the meeting. However, I'm requesting that my letter be read publicly at the meeting. Our family has owned this property since 1971. For over 50 years, and have enjoyed the beauty, peace, and tranquility that our property provides. Bethany has and is considered, quote, the quiet resort. I am asking that you help to preserve this character by opposing additional density next to my property. These are some of the specific concerns. There would be a public road which required lighting and additional flooding, exacerbating the water issues that already exist in that area. Additional density brings more traffic, more noise, and more strain on the environment and infrastructure. The proposed plan calls for 2 additional 4-bedroom homes. Furthermore, the existing rental property is currently being rented. An additional two 4-bedroom units being surrounding properties. 24 people next door to our property is not what we expected in terms of our legacy property. I also had the opinion that we were somewhat protected by the grandfathering clause set forth many years ago. My request is that you evaluate these concerns and do what is best for the town. I appreciate the time and dedication that you provide as a body to protect the natural uniqueness of our community that has made Bethany such a special place to call home. With much appreciation for your time and service, Joe Carroll Onifrey. And I just ask that that be entered into the record of the hearing.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other commissioner comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
As some of the public speakers have raised, I have genuine concerns about the stormwater management related to this property. You have those wetlands behind it and all, and I'm not, at this point, satisfied that we have enough information to proceed. I'm a property rights person. I think anybody that has property, if they are within the zoning code, they should be allowed to do that. And we've worked very hard to have a code that recognizes the uniqueness of Bethany Beach and all to do that. But I do have to admit to having sympathy for the concerns that have been raised about the stormwater management containment pond and how well it's going to operate. The ditch into which it goes has been known to not be as sufficient as it could be. The results of local storms is pretty noticeable around here, whether it was last week or before. And Mr. Chairman, I go back to my first comment about the current application lacking all the requirements that we have in place to allow for thoughtful and thorough consideration of what a property owner wants to do. And I certainly respect Mr. Cole and his family wanting to use the property to the maximum extent possible. But I'll go on record right now, I am not prepared to vote in favor of moving this until we have all of the necessary requirements under our existing statute.
I agree with what Mr. Gahn said. The items that are outlined here by Mrs. Frederick, I think we should have those in hand first. But I would also like to ask Mrs. Frederick if you had any comments on that stormwater management part of.
I don't really know if it works. I can't speak to that because I don't have any, I'm not a person who can understand the calculations, actually. I have concern about a big gravel pad just out there. They're not doing any landscaping, they're not screening anything, they're not planting any trees. I'm a little concerned about the overall appearance and whether it works. I know when Mrs. Onifray has the property next door, when she proposed her PRD, she went through, they developed a very complicated stormwater management system to handle all the water. And I'm not really understanding if this will handle it based on this simple gravel pad, which I'm kind of wondering what that looks like, and whether it needs a little bit more consideration. I mean, the previous plan had pervious system where the water went in, it was treated, it went to swales on each side, and it just seems that, you know, there's planning on just having it flow as it does now, which I don't know if that even works. So I think a little bit more information on that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I think two things. Landscape, thank you for touching on that. I do think, I know you mentioned that nothing in addition was being proposed. Landscape is one of the things that this committee will be looking at and has looked at in the past. I think that's something that you all should look at, especially as it relates to neighboring properties and how to create a buffer that can help, one, screen, and two, enhance that adjacency. The other thing is, will the county or the conservation group provide any sort of preliminary review or comments that can assist in this process, potentially, or help with this review? You know, what else can we, you know, expect? I know it goes through them as part of the process, but you know.
I will say that we have designed and had approved systems like this on similar properties.
Right.
And there is existing vegetation in that wetland area that will remain to help screen that from off-site views. That's not to say we couldn't add some additional landscaping, but it's not like it's gonna be out there for everybody to see. It will be fairly
Right.
especially in the summer months, you know, when deciduous trees are needed. As part of our process, again, should we move forward, you know, beyond the preliminary stages, when we'll be preparing and submitting those plans to Sussex Conservation District, we'd be happy to submit copies to you guys as well for review, if that's something, you know, that you would want to see. But again, ultimately, the authority lies with them, and they're going to review it very, very strictly to make sure that we're meeting all the state codes.
I guess my main concern is the stormwater management pad and the effect it will have on the ditch and other homeowners around them. I mean, it's been a problem for quite a few years already, and it will just exacerbate more.
Ideally, it will exacerbate it. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
releasing at pre-existing levels. And as Mr. Cole said, there's also the opportunity to get together with the adjacent homeowners and see about maybe cleaning that ditch out to provide better product.
That's not gonna happen.
What?
That's not gonna happen.
It has to be something that you're satisfied with.
I think more information, and will Sussex Conservation be looking at the whole outfall and the entire length of the ditch?
Oh, wait a minute.
How it works now?
Hold on. Could you use the microphone, because this is recorded? Thank you.
Yes, Conservation District will look at the downstream effects of the proposed stormwater management as part of
Then
their review.
it'd be helpful to have, I guess, the elevations, and I know they look a lot at what is the natural flow now?
Yep.
How will it be disturbed?
Mm-hmm.
And whether this is at the levels that you think. I mean, we've had some cases where it's supposed to work, but unforeseen. I mean, I don't know. We'll look at the 100-year storm, and whether that's all you have to look at.
Right.
So more information on how this works, what the existing stormwater runoff, where it goes, you know, what do we have now?
Okay.
What's its pattern now? Because I know they look at, well, this is the way it always flowed across this street or whatever. So a little bit more information on how this is going to work would be really helpful. And also how this giant gravel pad is going to be screened and maintained.
Sure.
Yeah, I think maintenance is
No, I mean,
the big plan. It's,
Yep.
you know, equally as important.
You don't want it to be an eyesore for the neighbors either.
As I said, there is some existing vegetation that does screen it, and we can buff that up if we need to. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the main portion of the storage is below grade. It basically, there's a gravel area, I wouldn't even call it a giant gravel area. There's a gravel area, as shown on our plan, that'll be visible on the surface.
There's about 6 feet tall regress surrounding
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need something that either shows that or explains that or notes it on a drawing or
Sure.
tells us. Right now, I just see a giant gravel pad.
Susan, can we share with the applicant your memorandum that you spoke from at the beginning of this, that laid out things that were missing and all, to help them understand, whether they agree or not, but understand what we're looking for in order to move this forward, so that there's no ambiguity, if you will, about what they need. I'm speaking for myself, what they need to have in their application for me to say, okay, we have met the requirements, and now I'm ready to consider all of that in my decision.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I think that it is very helpful, but it could be laid out a little differently so that they can see just what they have to do.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, if you have specific conditions,
Yeah.
then, I mean, you need to tell me what they are. I can put down what they are missing and what was discussed at this hearing,
Yeah.
so that they can then address that.
Yeah, if you have specific
Thank you.
conditions that you want to tack on to the approval, we're certainly willing to, we're not trying to
Oh, I don't know if this
get
is
anything over on the town. We want to be good neighbors and fit in with the aesthetic of
If
the
you are
town.
approving the preliminary, you-
So
With
anything we can do to
then we have
do
to
that,
lay
we're
out-
happy
you
to
guys have to lay out what
consider.
conditions.
And speaking only for myself, I'm going to observe, right now, I don't have enough of all of that
To approve it.
to approve it,
Yeah.
to even move ahead.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of opposition, it's a procedural question.
It's not complete.
Right. From my standpoint.
Could I go back to the ditch just for one moment? What is it connected to? Like Bethany, does it flow from
So
something?
I believe it generally runs, like was stated, from the canal to the bay, ultimately. Now, I know there are some areas in that ditch that are higher than others, so I don't think it flows, as well as stated, as well as it should. But we're working with what we have on site, yeah. That's not to say that in the future, that portion of the ditch couldn't be cleaned some with the adjacent homeowners, but right now, that's what we have to work with, so that's what we're working with.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So, I think we have some comments that we need incorporated in order to approve this plan. I don't think we're comfortable approving it with conditions today. We will, I think procedurally, it makes sense that we give you that list. You resubmit that preliminary plan at whatever time frame you can. The sooner you can, the sooner we can review it.
Sure.
And move it forward. And push it onto the final plan. I think that is our preference. John, sorry.
Susan, in doing this, do we have to now go back through the 45-day notice and all, or can we, if we remand this, if you will, I think it could go on the schedule in a timely way without binding the applicant to those 45-day notice requirements, which, I mean, this has been going on a long time already.
I think we can just do a continuance, and it could be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. I think that's helpful, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And then that time, we can develop a list to give them things that you want to see at the next meeting. I'll
Yep.
shoot an email to everybody with a preliminary, and you can add to it and get it back to me, and we'll get it to them.
Thank you.
That being the case, Mr. Chairman, I would propose that we continue this process subject to our direction to the applicant of things that are necessary, any other comments that we have, and then make that subject to open-ended to their our acting upon their response to that.
Second that.
We keep it open.
I agree.
I'll coordinate with Susan, we'll get a list.
Are we good with
We
that?
take a formal vote.
Do we have the vote?
Huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we'll take a formal vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I seconded it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Mr. Chairman, as secretary,
Yes.
are there any other concerns or questions from the public related to this continuation that they would like to be sure are considered? Yes, sir.
You know, my question would be, what are you really asking for? And this process costs money.
Yes.
And it's almost going on 2 years, or it's going into a second year almost. So could it be clear what you're asking this gentleman to provide for this next hearing, so that we don't go
give him the
through
list.
this again? Because the experts, I mean, you all aren't experts. I used to sit on a board like this, and I knew I wasn't an expert. I relied on the agencies that did it. Now, whether we know it'll work or not, nobody knows that until a major storm comes or something like that. But for us to try to outguess the experts. So when the Conservation District looks at things and the Army Corps, I don't know how you all will have the expertise to, look at it and make a judgment on whether it was a good decision on their part. But anyway, it costs quite a bit of money to continue doing this, so if we could be real clear what he has to do for the next meeting,
Yes.
we would love that.
Yeah.
That's all my
We
only
are-
comment.
With all due respect, we already said we were going to give you a list. Okay? And I also have to comment, we haven't delayed this 2 years. We have been at this trying to get this to a decision point, and it has gone back. We had some specifics before, and that's where we are, sir. And I only say that because I don't want an inference that we have somehow delayed this.
No, and one other thing I just wanted to add is that we're not adding conditions or anything. These were things that were included in our code that weren't addressed in this preliminary plan. So that's what, we just want to get a complete application before we can proceed. Thank you.
No other comments, correct? Old business, I don't think there is any.
Too old to remember.
Yeah, that's right. So to summarize action items, we will follow up and provide, coordinate with Susan these items. Susan will provide a list back to the applicant. We will do that within the next few days, and you guys can respond as quickly as you're able to, and we'll go from there. And I think that's the only next step. And other than that, anything else before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done.
God, that really, you know, it's a joy.